probably be dead. It's the Stansberry Show. Rock 1069.
Welcome to Monday morning on the Stansberry Show here on Rock 1069. It will be a little bit of a shortened week for us as it is the 4th of July week. We'll have that holiday a little closer towards the end of the week, but we'll put in our best effort over the next couple of days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I will be here with you. You can find me as per usual using that microphone talkback button on iHeartRadio. There is also the text line at 330-450-7625. And I'm on your socials at The Stansberry Show. We are online at WRQK.com. If you missed any show last week, pick up your podcast there. Also, make sure you get signed up for the Stansberry Cup. Our golf outing is now this month. I kept saying last week, and that would have been true, but it is July 24th that you and I will be at Raintree Golf and Event Center for the Stansberry Cup. Get your team signed up today. That at WRQK.com. It is a Monday, so we'll talk to Scott from waitingfornextyear.com. A lot to talk about there as the NBA draft just wrapped up not that long ago. Bronny now a Los Angeles Laker, plenty to discuss there. Also, the Cavaliers picked up a few players too. Probably should talk to him about that. New coach for the Cavs as well. What will this season look like? Did we move sideways with the Atkinson hire? Is it moving upwards from J.B. Bickerstaff? How does Scott feel about that? We'll touch on that. Also, you still got the Donovan Mitchell contract and Amari Cooper and the Cleveland Browns as well. So we got plenty to ask him about. We will do that coming up 6 o'clock. You know, sports is front and center right now also, as you have the Olympics getting ready right around the corner. We talked about that a little bit last week because Al Michaels is going to be doing some AI stuff for wraparound for, I think this was going to be on Peacock, if memory serves, right? I believe this is.
Hi, Kelly. Welcome to your daily Olympic recap, your personal rundown of yesterday's most thrilling Olympic moments.
So that's how they're going to do a little AI Al Michaels on Peacock for your wraparound stuff. I actually watched some time trial stuff the other night. I wasn't meaning to or anything. I just kind of had backed out of the Peacock app a little bit to, maybe see what other movies might be on. I was actually looking for a really good, maybe like thriller or something like that, and just saw it on the corner of the screen. Olympic time. I was like, all right. I'm not normally somebody who goes all crazy over the Olympics at all. I'm normally a little bit more ho-hum on it, if anything. I was like, let me watch this. I turned it on. And so sure enough, I turned it on right before the women's 10,000 meter had started. I don't know anything about sprinting, running. I don't know anything about anything, right? I don't know anything about this stuff. But it's people competing. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch this. Next thing you know, sure enough, last lap, I'm like now sitting up, edge of my seat, like, what are you doing, right? Sure enough, I thought this woman was going to win. She didn't. She did come in second. She found her way into Paris, that woman that I was kind of rooting for. But there were a few, man, where it was like, oh my God, man. These women are clearly better at this than the rest of these women back here. It was a pretty interesting view. And through that, I ended up looking up some stuff about the Olympics, and I found a quote from some past Olympians and some people still vying to get their first medal. And a very interesting outlook on the Olympic medal from the athletes themselves. We're going to take a look at this a little bit at 7 o'clock, but apparently so many of them would rather come in with a bronze medal, finish third, rather than second. Apparently, second is what you don't want. Silver is the last thing you would want, apparently, to a lot of Olympians. I was surprised by this. I think I might have a different look at it. So we'll take a look at those quotes. We'll do that coming up at 7 o'clock. And like I said, we will talk to Scott, 8 a.m., about everything Cavaliers, also Guardians, as well. Eddie Murphy's out there promoting the new Beverly Hills Cop movie, which will land on Netflix that on Wednesday. He's saying some interesting things about some of the media coverage he had to deal with in the 80s at the height of his fame and the David Spade joke and all of that. We may touch on that. Matthew Perry's investigation into his death. Apparently now they are saying this is a product of doctor shopping, which I got to be honest with you. Anytime I hear a celebrity who has struggled with addiction, anytime they die, in circumstances like this, I just assume doctor shopping was obviously part of this. Because at some point, a doctor's going to be like, bro, you were just here yesterday. $10,000. I can't just give you more of this today, right? Like, you got to be careful with some of this. So I just always assume that doctor shopping is going to be a part of that. We'll take a look at that today as well. Also, Gen Z, apparently more and more bars are get these little kids, and by the way, Gen Z is not really little kids anymore, but get these kids out of our bars. We don't want them. They don't want to be here. We don't want you. If you don't want to be here, get out. More and more bars are raising the age that you need to hit before they will let you into the doors. We will talk about this a little bit at 9:00. I think there's a small business in this because once you reach a certain age, you kind of look at the bar scene and you go, where do I go? It's kind of like when you go into a mall after a certain age. It's like there's only two. I have to go to the department stores to buy my clothing now. I'm not allowed in there. The music's too loud in that one. The kids are too young in that one. I'm not allowed. I can't buy anything in that one. There's something similar now happening with bars, and we'll get to Gen Z being banned in bars. We'll spend part of the 9:00 hour this morning taking a look at that. Gen Z, apparently bar owners don't want you anymore. Money's no good there. More and more bars raising the age required before they let you on that ride. We'll get to why at 9 a.m. You know, so many people talk about being rich and famous one day. I heard this quote once, and I think it's a little bit true, that the one problem with the American dream is it makes everybody concerned for the day that they're going to be rich, right? And so we can look past things that maybe we should be a little bit more focused on, or like maybe think differently on something. But we're like, I don't know, what if I end up with $10 million fighting something? That could work. And you will hear people talk about celebrities and feeling a little jealous of them, you know. And I've always said, I think what you would like to be is wealthy. I'm not sure you would want to be famous. Famous is everybody's watching your every move, TMZ cameras in your face, and I just don't know if most people are built for that. Or, you know what, is the better way to say it? I don't know if anybody's really built for that, because that's not really the way it's supposed to be. Now, I know what the pushback there will be. Well, really? I mean, everybody's kind of turning cameras in on themselves these days. All right, I guess that's a little fair. I mean, you're kind of deciding what you're showing versus, you know, there's a whole nother conversation in that. I mention it because I'm sure some of you, not all of you, I know, have been paying a little attention to what's going on with Ben Affleck. I mean, this guy's still, been in and out of the rehab situations. He has struggled mightily, with the addiction issue, with the alcohol and the like, and apparently not the best at relationships either. I guess this J-Lo, this reconciliation that happened with her is now, I guess they say a day ago now, it's officially over. Apparently he had to go back to the ex-wife's house, Jennifer Garner's place, to go get a bunch of his stuff out of there. And, and now this Jennifer Lopez thing is kind of falling apart. And look at that. I mean, there he is, rich, famous, has the money, all the thing. And here's just real everyday life, just kind of stuck in the middle of it still. You still have to deal with all of that. And we all kind of know about it. That wouldn't be the easiest thing in the world, I don't think, for most people. I think a lot of more people would be punching TMZ cameras and the like. I mention it because one of the things that's getting talked about now is Matt Damon, how he's been a sounding board for Ben Affleck. And more than that, he's been the tough love guy, apparently. You know, they've been friends forever since they were, kids or whatever. They wrote that first movie, Good Will Hunting, together and kind of created their own opportunity in the business. They weren't really finding a whole lot of opportunities. We're like, all right, let's just go build a door and then we'll knock that one open. It's kind of impressive when you think about it. Apparently, when Ben was thinking about getting back together with J-Lo, Matt Damon was the good friend and was like, what are you doing? Like, Holmes, what are you doing? Quote, according to a source, quote, Matt tried to warn Ben when he got back together with J-Lo that this could end up happening again. Matt had been there to help Ben get it together after the first split, and he felt like, yeah, this may happen again. Apparently went as far as to be telling Ben Affleck things like, dude, look how much work you have put into her career. Look how much support you have put into her projects. When has she ever done this for you or your career? That's hard stuff to do. Hard. I'm sure I was going to ask the question. But most of you have had to tell somebody in your life, whether it be a friend, a sister, a brother, somebody in your life, you have had to tell them, I don't know about this one, man. I don't know. I don't know about this one. And what happens? They shoot the messenger. And sometimes your friends are motivated from, whatever their feelings may be, and they could be wrong about the assessment. So now who do you listen to? Yourself or your friend? If your friend's right, normally you probably, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, and that's really hard to do, but if you were going to be honest with yourself, if your friend's right, you would probably be sitting there thinking like, well, I did kind of look past that red flag. And now that you mention it out loud, it's undeniable, this thing that I kind of used to look past mentally when I would think back on it, even when I whether or not this was any good, right? And then that's normally how that would go. And because you were unable to act on it or do what you needed to do, now all of a sudden the person who's telling it to you, it's their fault. It's kind of like how when this happens with guys a lot, I can't really speak to women. But if a woman cheats on a man gets angry, and what's he want to do? He wants to beat up the other man. Because in my view, and I don't know that this would be 100% of the time, but it's going to be a lot of the percentage, is you are struggling more with the harder thing to do, which is going and telling her, you suck, get out. But I'm mad, don't know how to work those feelings out, Hulk smash, and now I'll feel better, right? Is kind of how that's kind of how that goes. It's misplaced anger. You're mad at her, but you're going to take it out on him. It's not necessarily his fault what was happening. We're actually going to talk about side pieces a little bit on today's program. There is another subject I have earmarked a little later. We may get into that. Telling your friend that who they're with isn't who they should be with, or, hey, man, be careful here, is tough business. I went a step further one time where I had a buddy, and he was getting married. And he asked me to stand up in that wedding. And I told him, I was like, dude, you have a little bit of money. I was like, and you have a really good heart. It's like, so you can't see this coming a mile away. I was like, bro, I'm pretty sure this woman's trouble. And I've been on the other side too. I've been the guy who wouldn't listen. But I was trying to tell my buddy, I was like, man, I just don't see it. We were much younger. I mean, much, much younger. So there was also that. It's like, dude, really? Are we really sure you want to be signing up for the rest of your life here? I'm like, we're still pretty young. There's the money issue. I don't think this is. And sure enough, it sent a ripple in that friendship. We remained friends. It took about another year and a half after that. Sure enough, that situation kind of went bad. There had to be one of those drunk nights, arm around you. I love you, brother. Thanks for trying to be there for me. If I would have just been smart, right? We did kind of have to get into one of those, man. But I was looking at this Ben Affleck thing. I'm sitting there thinking, man, everybody wants to be rich and famous. But here you are. There's your dirty laundry. Dude, this guy can't get it together with women. Apparently, one of the reasons why he leans on Matt Damon is because Matt's been married 18 years. And I guess he marvels at it. Like, how in the hell? It's like, well, yeah, man, somebody who doesn't wake up and drink first thing in the morning probably has an easier time staying married. The Guardians slipped to 52-30 after losing yesterday, I believe, 6-2 to the Royals. I believe they have an off day today. We'll talk to Scott from waitingfornextyear.com. Get a little State of the Union on your guards. Also some Cavs, too. Not at 8 a.m. this morning. Might have to talk a little Caitlin Clark with him as well. She did pretty well yesterday. I believe it was against Daniela Taurasi there, who had talked smack about Caitlin Clark coming into the WNBA. And then there was the overlooking of Caitlin for the Olympic team. Diana's going to go. And now all of a sudden, Caitlin plays pretty well. And I believe they even got the win. And so now that whole argument has been reignited. There's more talk about the WNBA than ever before. Ratings are up. And so the question I will have about the WNBA right now may be tough to come to an answer, because ratings have clearly increased, right? And so is attendance. I'm not sure everybody who's online all day talking about the WNBA is watching as many games. And that doesn't have anything to do with the WNBA. This is true that happens with the NFL all the time. It happens with the NBA all the time, baseball all the time. So I'd be curious to see that, but we'll talk to Scott. We'll do that coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. We had been talking about telling somebody that they're in the wrong relationship, because apparently Matt Damon, before Ben Affleck and J-Lo got back together, he was like, Holmes, what are you doing? He's like, you know how this is going to go. We know who this person is. What are we doing here? Which, by the way, she has Apparently no friends. Nobody anywhere will say anything nice about this woman. I read a story about a week and a half ago that apparently you're not allowed to look at her in the face while you're on set with her in the movies. And we've heard plenty of wild stories about celebrities over the years on set. And Daniel Day-Lewis will only be the character, and like all this other Jim Carrey who didn't come off the moon or whatever the hell the thing was with the filming, right? Like there's been a lot of that, but apparently he is very, very difficult. Now they say don't judge a book by its cover. And that's probably most of the time good advice, but I can tell about whether or not I'm right. Like, and she looks like somebody that is like, ugh. Like the moment she walks into your house and your buddy brings her with him, you're like, ugh, he did it. He dates the impossible women every time, right? And like she does kind of have that look about her. And like and I don't know them, but the small snippets you see of them getting in and out of cars and stuff like that, she just looks like he's just an accessory. I feel like the thing with Jeter, was it Jeter or no, A-Rod, right? It was A-Rod. I feel like that was like where she kind of like got her heart broken and was like, well, Ben will always have me. Ben's a drunk who can't get his life together. Ben will always have me. I'll go back to Ben, right? Like that's kind of how that one felt. And we had been talking about that. And so sure enough, a few of you have written in at 330-450-7625, like Eric, who said, yeah, man, I had to tell my brother, as a matter of fact, that he was in the wrong relationship. I can't decide if family would be easier or harder. I mean, you could make the argument for either, and I guess it would all depend on who the people in the situation were, including you, right? Are you, okay, like people would assume that I love conflict, right? Because I speak definitively, I have strong opinions, I will yell into the microphone and all of that. And yeah, as a presenter, I am not afraid of conflict, right? In my life, because of the job is so fight oriented, I don't necessarily want conflict in my life a whole lot. And I will normally go along to get along, unless it's going to really negatively affect me. Then all of a sudden I'll raise my hand and be like, dude, what are you doing with that over there? Like, what are you, nuts? But like, if it's just going to ruin your life and I'm like, he's just going to get pissed at me if I tell him, I'll probably wait until a moment that can't be avoided. I have other friends who were like, no, dude, I want to tell him. I can't wait to tell him, right? They love breaking the bad news. I don't necessarily want to be doing it. I think family would almost be easier because whether you want your brother, your sister, your cousin or whatever, whether you want them to know you really well or not, they probably do. And maybe I'm making it too much about my relationship with my brother. Maybe you don't have that relationship. Fair enough, right? Maybe I'm broad stroking it too easily. But I think David would just step back and go, all right, well, I know who Dan is. And if he felt strongly enough to tell me this, because, all right, so David is very much more the, all right, here it comes. I'm just going to tell you. I know you're going to hate it. And he did once. And we don't live close, and we, you know what I mean? We lived together a little while when we were running bars together in Oregon and all of that. But like outside of that, we haven't lived together for a very long time. Spots, right? In between jobs and things like that, right? Kind of like your life's in peril and you need somebody to help you out. Kind of one of those situations. But we haven't like been close regionally in a long time. And I had been dating this woman once upon a time. And it was one of the times they were in town. It was years ago. And, you know, I had been seeing this woman for a little while. I was a little excited about it. We went to lunch. And everybody was like, my mom was like, oh, nice. And you know, his wife was like, oh, okay. Daughter, blah, blah, blah. And we get out into the parking lot. And I'm saying goodbye to everybody. And I hug my mom. I hug my sister-in-law, my niece, and all of this. David just kind of, I hugged him goodbye. I was like, hey, man, it's good to see you. And, you know, glad to see you. And as I go to pull away from him, he just kind of pulled me in just one more half second and just kind of whispered in my ear, she ain't it, man. I'm sorry. And then got in the car and left. I swear to God, I thought he was nuts. And I mean, I thought he was nuts. And I wanted to call him the moment I got home and dropped her off and all that stuff. But I knew he'd be in the car with his wife and I knew he wasn't going to tell me in front of her. So sure enough, they get to the hotel, whatever. She's in the shower and he called me, goes, all right, man, here's everything I noticed at lunch. Blah, 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 blah. And I wanted him to be wrong. But looking back on that situation, I'm not so sure he was. Get your team signed up today for the Stansbury Cup. We're playing July, well, on the 24th of this month. I guess I don't have to tell you the month anymore as it is July 1st. 24th, we'll be at Raintree Golf and Event Center. Keep your team signed up today. Looking forward to day drinking, playing a little golf with you guys as well. Be a fun day. If you've never played Raintree, that's a fun course. Use this as your opportunity. I'm in no danger of winning an Olympic medal ever. Right? I'm past the age range, and I wasn't much of an athlete before that. My brother was the athlete in the family. I was not. I did get caught up in some Olympic time trial watching the other evening. They're trying to get the squads figured out for Paris. And I was like, all right, kind of struggling for something to watch, looking for, through the movies or whatever. Didn't see anything that piqued my interest right away. And I was in the Peacock app and they were advertising the Olympic time. I was like, all right, well, let's see, where we're at. And sure enough, I turned it on and they're like sending the women to like start the 10,000 meter. Right. I don't know much about running. You can tell by looking at me, I haven't done a whole lot, right? It's not necessarily my favorite thing in the world to do. If this conversion calculator I'm looking at is right, apparently that's about 6.2 miles. So I was like, okay, well, let me watch a little bit of this. I don't know anything about it. I've never heard any of these women's names before this. But let's see, right? And so sure enough, the broadcaster's telling me, oh, well, you got to keep your eye on this woman and this woman and this woman. One of them was out front for the bulk of the race. And knowing nothing about racing, I kept sitting there thinking, I think you're out in front a little too early in this, right? You kind of want to hold a little of this back. Now, the only reason I thought anything along those lines was about going to the horse track, right? And being a gambler and doing a little bit of that back. I was like, hey, you want to come down the stretch and like really pour the gas on, right? And so I'm kind of watching this, and the form is what really struck me. It really struck me because like I will go to the gym and I'll run on an elliptical, which is easier than like running on pavement for sure. And I'll do something, right? But then I have to like stop and take like a sip of water or maybe catch my breath for 10 seconds. All right, now as long as I at least stop for 10 seconds, now I got to get it back, amped up and continue. These women just have perfect form the entire way, 6.2 miles, and they're just hoofing, right? And it was remarkable to me because there's no slouching, there's none of that. Obviously, they're conditioned. This is what they do. They're training to be an Olympian. Yes, I know they didn't just go grab somebody off the couch in Alliance and be like, all right, today, it's your big day. Get out there, right? Like that, if the Olympics ran like that, I think more people would watch, right? Like if it was like the Hunger Games, they just came to your house, knocked on the door, and was like, pole vault. You better figure it out. You're on today at 3. Like that would, honestly, I would watch the living hell out of that. Like that would be amazing. It should really be people like me who talk too much trash on social media. Like, all right, shot put, you're up, right? Like, which, by the way, I watched some of that. Oh my God, unbelievable. So I got to watch in the Olympics, or the time trials for it, rather. And so you know how algorithms work. So now social media is like, oh, he likes the Olympic stuff, right? And so I ran across this article about the Olympic gold medals. Apparently, so many people who have competed in the Olympics would actually rather win a bronze medal than silver. There's something about a competitor on that level, apparently, where just almost is way worse. You'd rather lose by 10,000 than by a second. Now, it's hard to put myself into this scenario and think about this. I'm not an athlete of any stretch of the imagination. And to be honest with you, I'm not all that competitive in my profession because it requires it. But I've had, like, my buddy HJ, who gave me some lessons back in the day on some golf and stuff, and who I need to desperately call again and get it back because it's a mess. But, like, he once said to me while we were playing, he goes, I'm not sure you can ever get to where you want to go. What do you mean? He goes, you're not competitive enough. He's like, if you play well, you don't care if the person you played with beat you. He's like, that's insane to me. He was like, not only do I want to play well, he's like, I want to beat everybody I ever play against. He's like, I worry that you want to be a level of good that requires you to be more competitive than you naturally are when it comes to that. You might be right. So it's kind of hard for me to put myself into this because I think to myself, well, God, I just almost made gold. To me, in my mind, what happens there is all the sacrifice, everything I did, giving up the pizza, giving up the parties, giving up going and having fun to go and be in the pool first thing in the morning or whatever the sport is. That tells me if I hit silver and I'm just that close to gold, that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And Brandon in the lane next to me just happened to be better today. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's better overall. He was better today. Yes, the world, yes, the country, yes, the viewers are going to view him better overall. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true. He had a better day. I could maybe get myself there, where if I gave up everything, sacrificed everything, and I just blew it, or not even blew it, I get there and it was obvious. Oh, I am not close to this. Then all of a sudden, I think a lot of regret comes in. Silver, I'm still looking at, this would be true of bronze, I suppose, as well, is that silver, I'm still looking at it like this is rare air. Olympic medal is rare air. Like, we can say whatever you want. I mean, very few people are getting there. So any one of them. But apparently, so many of them, if they win silver, are furious about it. Apparently, at the 2022 Beijing Olympics, Alexandra Trusova, I hope I'm saying that, she won silver. And apparently, immediately after the event said, I guess the flip side of the coin, the way I looked at it was what? You did all of that, and you were right there. And you didn't capitalize on the moment. Take the skates away from it. That's life showing you. You weren't that close. That an inch in the Olympics is 10, might as well be 10 miles, right? Like, and I think there's a Brady aspect here. Like I kept saying about Tom Brady when he was still playing, what is the motivation here? You've got the money 10 times over. You've got the chips 10 times over. You got it all. How the hell do you wake up and go to 2-a-days and get beat up and do all this stuff and take the air, change teams? How do you stay chomping it? And I think that's a little bit of an examination into the personality styles, right? That you give me all the money, you give me all this stuff. It's like, well, I did it. I have the chips, I have the money, I have all the things. I want to keep my ribs and my sanity. You know what I mean? Where Brady's like, no, man, I want to play another game. And I think that's how you become a football. That's how you end up becoming an Olympian. We're close enough, good enough. Condition, and we'll get that and do that. Somebody walking around your house. Anderson. We'll get there an hour from now. What we have been talking about is the Olympics. Time trials kind of the events that last time was the and he did a good job. I mean, he did a good job, and he got it right almost all of the times. And as he's wrapping up or whatever, he had it won't matter. It won't matter. It won't be the times you got it right. It will be the 2 times you screwed it up, and it will be people. And I, of course, just kind of laughed because I had used the Olympics once upon a time to make a point about being a broadcaster and how some, it goes